our expert today, please feel free to leave your comments in the chat box, your questions in either in the chat box or in the Q&A box. Thanks, everyone. We'll be starting in 2 minutes. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to today's edition of VC Live, which is an initiative by GVCC. What is GVCC, you may ask? So it stands for Godrej Value Co-Creators Club. So the GVCC was established last year. It is a platform for nurturing the architecture and interior design community, basically all of you and all of us. And to explain its objectives and its membership benefits today, who better to do so than the Executive Vice President and Business Head of Godrej Locks and Architectural Fittings and Systems, Mr. Shyam Motwani. Hi, Shyam. So nice to have you with us today. If you can please switch on your camera and mic. Hi, Shyam. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me
yes,
now?
Shyam, we can see you. Yes. Hi, Shyam. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Hi.
So can you tell us a little more about why the Value Co-Creators Club was initiated? Is there a story? Is there an inspiration? And why call it Value Co-Creators?
I think it's a very pertinent question. I think it was a desire to create a platform which would allow us to really engage very deeply with the community of architects and interior designers, because I think, we always felt that, just making sure that you have the right technology at your disposal to create products that are of great value to our, our end users and our clients and our various other customers, including the community of architects and interior designers. It's important to also get some great in contemporary consumer insights and customer insights. So we thought that, we could definitely use, once this platform was ready, the opportunity you get and we get to really combine the creativity that the architect and the interior design community brings to the table, along with our thought leadership in the business of producing safe and smart solutions for our end users, would be of great help in co-creating value. And therefore this, the existence today and the creation behind the Godrej Value Co-Creators Club.
Right. Thanks so much for sharing that. And since this is such a new platform and we've only just kind of started discovering it and getting to know about it, especially this community here today, can you tell us where do you hope to see it in the next couple of years? Like, what is your vision for this platform?
You see, I think, we have programs which, are kind of interwoven with our annual and strategic business plans, which are, both short and medium term in nature. And we have a great focus on, innovation as the bedrock of all that we create for our, millions of current and potential users and various customers. And in order to make sure that we are up to speed and above the curve and ahead of the curve, we have a program of great strategic importance to our business, which is called as the multi-generation product planning.
Right.
And we do want to, create various, solutions, in collaboration with our architect and interior design community, so that we get to understand what are the current immediate needs in the here and now, and the expectations that consumers and clients have with respect to creating safe and smart solutions. And I think we believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, we would see these inputs coming from the GVCC as integral to our multi-generation product planning and creating solutions which will really impact the lives of our current users and also future potential new users, and across various other industry verticals when it comes to B2B solutions as well.
Sure. Lastly, just can you tell us what architects, and we have a lot of architects and designers who are in our audience today. What would you tell them about them being a part of the community? Like, what would they hope to gain?
Well, there is a lot to gain from this program. So while we do believe that it's an incentive kind of a driven program, but essentially, I think this platform is also a great opportunity for us to celebrate excellence in architecture, design, and what have you for the entire community. And for that purpose, we launched our maiden venture, as we call it, the GVs Awards, which was this year in March. The maiden show, the maiden event was conducted in March this year with very great, I think, participation and tremendous response. And we were kind of very, very encouraged and emboldened to really, make this event an annual event, a calendar event that people would want to look forward to. So I think it's a celebration of the work that the architect community is doing, and also the best practices that they bring to their task, including working on sustainability and many such things which are of great importance and which are very dear to us as an organization, given our investments in good and green initiatives that we as an entity and as a conglomerate are investing a lot of our time and effort in. So I think this platform is meant to really recognize the contributions the community makes in making our lives really safe and for a better and smarter kind of living in the years to come.
That's great, Shyam. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your thoughts with us, and for sharing the vision behind GVCC. Also, of course, as you all may know, what we're doing today, curating VC Live 2 is an integral part of GVCC, which our co-creators, Renani and me, are very happy to be proud of putting this together. So yeah, thank you so much again, Shyam, for your time. And in case if all of you today, if you'd like to know more about GVCC and how you can be a part of this, how you can enjoy the benefits of this very interesting program, specifically designed for the architects and designers like you, please feel free to reach out. We'll be sharing more details in the chat box. There's an email address, and there is also a number that you can reach out to. Yeah, so no matter where you are based in India, you can be a part of this platform and get exclusive access, among other things, into what Godrej Locks does, and as Shah mentioned, getting a chance to network with like-minded designers. Thanks again, Shyam. And
thank you, Sneha. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so as you can see in the chat box, there's a website where you can learn more about Godrej Value Co-Creators Club. There's an email address and there's a number. If you can share your contact details with us, and if you'd like to know more about what GVCC does, and if you'd like to attend more sessions, more networking opportunities, and more webinars like these, please feel free to reach out. Right, back to what we're on about today. Can I just take a quick moment to thank everyone who has been with us since episode 1, when we started back in February, and we are now in episode 7, and it's so good to see a growing audience who has been seeing value in what we do, and getting an opportunity to interact with the experts that we invite, especially for these sessions. Like even the experts who come in here and present masterclass masterclasses in subject matters that they are truly passionate about. It's kind of like a win-win that we're trying to put together here. So thanks to everyone who's here today. On with it then. So as mentioned, GVCC works on various initiatives, and VC Live is one of them. So what is VC Live? Value Co-Creators Live is a monthly series of interactive and educative conversations with experts in the field of architecture and design. In the first season of this initiative, we are addressing various aspects of what makes design conscious and how can one design consciously, what it means, what it entails, and how it can be achieved through informal but insightful conversations with experts as well as young talent. We hope to define an equitable and empathic process of creating environments that are responsive to the needs and aspirations of its inhabitants, that is our clients. And as curators, Mrinalini Gariok and I are very happy to be able to bring these conversations to you. Let me take a quick moment to introduce Mrinalini. Mrinalini is an architect by training, but she's also practiced architecture and lighting design. She's taught at university. She's researched historical narratives, and she's also been the founding editor of Mondo Arc India and Stir. Her curiosities now lie in questioning normative mechanisms in the creative community, usually through written and curatorial practices, just like this one and just like the one that we're doing together. Mrinalini, if you can say a quick hello to everyone, you can switch on your camera.
Hi, Sneha. Thank you so much for that introduction. Very happy to be here again and doing this for the 7th time, and looking forward to doing many more. And very excited about this session today. I think it's going to be great, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, Mrinalini. And yes, I'm very excited too, and I couldn't agree more. A little more about today's session. We're very excited to be doing this with one of our favorite architects today. It's very satisfying to see residential design evolve from limiting itself to indoor spaces to now, of course, include the great outdoors and the open natural environment. The forced isolation of the pandemic caused an important shift towards maximizing home comfort, particularly in underutilized outdoor spaces, leading us to fully embrace that beautiful limbo between indoor and outdoor living. So how do built and natural environments, how do they engage with each other? What are the different possibilities of living with nature while observing sustainable practices and mitigating thresholds? Today, we've invited the perfect expert to answer these questions and more. Please give a warm welcome to Anjali Mangalgiri, the founder and principal architect at Grounded, an award-winning architecture and development firm that she founded in 2010. Hi, Anjali. Lovely to meet you.
Hi Sneha. Hi, Mrinalini. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Singapore. We're so delighted that you're here. A little more about Anjali. She's had a very interesting career trajectory. After graduating with a bachelor's in architecture from SPA New Delhi, Anjali moved to the US to do a master's in city planning at MIT. In 2005, she joined New York-based architecture firm HOK, where she worked on urban planning projects before returning to university to complete a master's in real estate development at Columbia. In America, she terribly missed the hands-on practice of design that was directly influenced by the earth and soil, a practice that has left a deep impression on her. And during her architectural internship in Oroville, where she built using earth, straw, and other sustainable materials and techniques. The idea of bringing forth this tactile experience together with a broader knowledge on planning, on policy, and on business that she gained in the US, that's what led Anjali to set up Grounded. I love the name of the firm, by the way, Grounded. It has so many contexts and so many meanings to it. She's very passionate about design and environment, which I hope all of you get to discover today. She's been a TEDx speaker, and she's also been a speaker at Columbia University. She's a registered architect in India. She's LEED accredited professional in the US and an IGBC accredited professional in India. Thank you so much, Anjali, for joining us. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Sneha and Mrinalini, for the lovely introduction. And thank you, Godrej and Sham, for putting this together and giving us a platform. I'm gonna have to share my screen, right? Okay, one second. Okay, hang on. All right, hang on. I think this is where we're going. Okay, wait, I need to go back. Sorry, guys, this was meant to be a little bit, maybe I should just do it this way.
No worries, Anjali.
Okay.
You can see your screen. So yeah, whenever you're ready.
1 second. Okay. So yes, thank you for having me. And I think Sneha's done a brilliant job of introducing me already. But you will see some of my work and my team's work in this presentation. We are based primarily in Goa. I started my practice in 2010 in Goa. And we also do projects in Singapore because I spend some time in Singapore as well. Mostly interiors actually in Singapore. But in Goa and elsewhere in India, where we're doing a project outside of Bangalore in Nandi Hills, we've done a project close to Lonavala, we're doing a project in Chennai. We're generally very lucky to be working on sites that are very large and have a lot of natural context to them. And for us, basically building with sound architectural principles is at the core of our practice. So in fact, I feel that some of the things that I may be talking about today are things that we're taught in architecture schools. So I'm not talking about anything new, but maybe they're not practiced so much when it comes to actually putting them into buildings and building designs. The other core principles that we really stand by is sustainability. Today, we are talking about blurring the lines between indoor and outdoor spaces. It is a masterclass. So I've decided to basically really delve into the techniques that we use when it comes to blurring these boundaries between indoor and outdoor spaces. As I said, we're very lucky to be working on beautiful, large sites. We're also lucky to work with clients who already have a lot of buy-in to sustainability. And hence we're able to do what we do. Our clients are also building these homes. They're also really looking to reconnect with nature. They're looking to get away from the chaos of cities, reconnect with nature, and live an indoor outdoor lifestyle. And our architecture basically responds to that. So when it comes to blurring the lines between indoor and outdoor spaces, I have tried to sum it up into 6 design principles, but of course there can be many more. The first one is site responsive architecture and planning. And this basically, shows, or I'm trying to tell you that our thought about sustainability, about reconnecting with nature, about creating indoor and outdoor spaces really starts from day one. So it's not about basically creating a beautiful garden, but it's really about creating an architecture that is not a landmark, but is something that pretty much disappears on the site itself. It becomes a part of the site. And a lot of the sites that we are building in are greenfield sites, so they've never been built upon before. So we feel that a tremendous sense of responsibility when we are putting in a built structure on it, and we don't want it to take away from the existing biodiversity and the existing sort of ecological cycle of the land, but we want to add to it. So what do I mean by site responsive architecture? And I'm going to show it to you with an example of a project that we worked on in Goa. And the first thing is that we really study the site's assets, which can be the trees, the views, the levels of the site, if there's rockery on the site, and really the sun and the wind direction. Again, these are principles that are taught to us in day one in architecture school, but that is exactly how we start. And just to show you, this is, say, the empty site that we had. It was sloping. And the very first thing we did is to study the site's trees. And we create like these clusters of trees. We mark these clusters of trees on the site, which are significant. And then we almost try to insert our building within it. It is our real effort to not cut even a single tree on the site, and somehow weave the structures that we're designing within the existing trees and the existing assets of the site, the natural assets of the site. After that, we end up designing the building blocks based on the functionality required by the clients, and then design these transition spaces that transition between the indoors and the outdoors, which can be in the form of courtyards, entrance galleries, and verandas. We do extensive verandas, sometimes additional pavilions, which further connect the indoors to the outdoors. And then we, I guess, do, the first floor. And then we puncture our buildings. So this is, again, important for our design, is to have these, these corridors that we create within our buildings, which are for visual connectivity between indoor, outdoor, between various types of outdoor spaces, as well as for cross ventilation and for a lot of daylight to go through. So it is really our intent that even when you're indoors, you should feel as if you're pretty much in a covered veranda, but not really in an indoor room per se. The second principle that we'll discuss is, once we've developed kind of a site planning strategy, what happens when it comes to our floor plans. So I'm going to give you an example of a floor plan of one of the pavilions that we have designed for House of Three Pavilions in Goa. And I'll show you how even when you step inside one of our homes and one of our buildings, you still feel very much connected to the outdoors. And how do we do that? So there's basically the sequence of spaces that's designed, which is very conscious and very visual. It's almost like, it's almost like a drama, like, a play. So it sort of unfolds step after step. So the very first say the entrance, the opening scene of the play would be the entrance, which is here. And you're right now in the entrance forecourt for this pavilion. And what you see when you enter this house is that's the main entrance door. And when you open the door, you actually see another open space. So even though you're entering the house, you are not really entering an enclosed space, but you're entering a space that overlooks a courtyard. So that is the entrance, what we call the entrance gallery. And you basically look out onto a courtyard. We've populated this again with very simple details because we want the focus to be on the outdoor space and the courtyard that we'll be creating. So the details are kept very simple. We created a stone seat and introduced these antique columns, which are antique, but still fairly minimal in their design. At this point, I also want to talk about some of the challenges that come with creating indoor-outdoor spaces. It sounds very beautiful to be sort of living this outdoor life and, being connected with verandas and terraces and galleries to the outdoors, but it brings its challenges in terms of security, and mainly in terms of security and privacy. So all the time we have to sort of design this indoor-outdoor living, but be cognizant of the modern lifestyle. And we're trying to bring the two of them together. So in this case, for example, if this is our entrance gallery and it is completely open, even though now we've stepped into the home, for purposes of security, we basically install these foldable grills that can close up at night or when the owners are not in the house and secure the house, Okay, then once you're in this space, if you turn towards your left, you basically see another set of openings, which are also almost, designed as if they're unfolding themselves. So there is the entrance door to the guest room, which is symmetrically aligned to a large window that frames a tree at the end. So it's really kind of this unfolding of spaces and a dramatic kind of view. If you move ahead from the entrance gallery in this house, you actually enter another gallery. And if you once again look towards the guest room, you see another framed portal with the entrance door, then with the window, and then the nature framed. So we love doing these kind of details and these kind of sequences. If you look in the other direction from this gallery, you see another framed opening that frames the garden and frames the veranda through the veranda that we've created, which I'll show you. It's also very interesting that on one of our first site visits with the clients, when we went to the site, we kind of stood on this empty piece of land, and I asked the client, what is your most favorite view? So if you were to just capture, a portion of the site somewhere, which part is the most beautiful to you? And they had pointed out this tree, this particular tree, which very gracefully kind of bows on top of this water body that was existing and we've created. And that is the exact view that this opening frames. This veranda, so that is the opening that we just saw from inside, and that is the length, the long veranda that this house has. This veranda is really the center of the home. This was, in fact, how we started with the design of the house, because our clients really wanted this outdoor life. And this veranda is a 55-foot long veranda that spans the length of the house. So that's the veranda. And as you can see, many of the rooms, the living room, the kitchen, and the staircase that takes you up to the master, everything opens onto this veranda. And this is really where they plan to spend most of their time, living in an outdoor life. And this is another view of the veranda, which overlooks the veranda of another pavilion, which is close by. Okay, one more short video of another project. So this is a project that we did outside of Lonavala, and I'm showing you this video because it very beautifully captures the sequence of spaces that we've created. Okay, so as you can see, this is the indoor, this is the living room, which has openings on various sides, but this is the indoor living room, which then flows into the covered veranda. So that is the transitional space, which then flows into the pool, which is outdoor. And then after the pool, which you don't see in this video, is a lawn. And then after the lawn is actually a lake. So once again, and this actually where we started on the left is the entrance door. So there's really this beautiful sequence of spaces that we've designed, and really thinking about how a user, a guest to the house, or the owner of the house will move from one space to the other, where the transition should be very seamless, and the spaces should be connected. But at the same time, the house owners should have the ability to keep the house secure. They should have the ability to keep the animals and the critters and the reptiles out of the home. And also, if there are any neighbors close by, then have privacy from them. Oh, sorry. Okay. The third design principle that we are talking about is, of course, the design of fenestrations. Now, we're constantly talking about blurring the lines of indoor and outdoor spaces. We're talking about connecting with nature. So hence, of course, opening designs, the door and window designs become very, very important for us. So one strategy that we employ a lot is to have very large openings. Right? So have large openings that connect indoor spaces to outdoors. We use these very often in sort of the public areas of the house. So in the living rooms, in the dining rooms, and things like that. And we will put a mosquito net mesh for our clients here. We insist on those kind of things. But the idea really is to keep these doors open as much as possible. They are shaded. The openings are, of course, shaded. A lot of times we even use glass, which will be highly reflective. But to ensure that the heat is not really being gained by these large openings, but it's really about visual connectivity, physical connectivity, and making the outdoors and indoors feel like it's one space. Another way for us, which is completely contrary to large openings, is to have very small openings that become frames, so that frame beautiful views of the outdoors. We use these a lot in spaces like the bedrooms, which require more privacy, and large openings may make them lose some of the intimacy of the space. So these kind of smaller openings connect you to the outdoors, make the space feel cozy and intimate, and frame views for us. This is an example of something interesting that we often do for our bathrooms. Building large country homes, we end up, really spending a lot of time on our bathroom designs. We want them to be very, luxurious, but still not, not glossy. They should still have the kind of a beautiful barefoot, sort of quality to them. So in this bathroom, as you can see, and we do this often, as I said, is instead of putting mirrors above our vanity, we actually end up putting a window. And the idea is that you're in this beautiful location, whether it's Goa, whether it's the Nandi Hills, or whether it's, the Western Ghats, elsewhere in Western Ghats, you wake up in the morning and we presume that, our clients are more excited about sort of feeling the breeze on their face and, hearing the birds chirp. And that's kind of the slow living mood that we want to create for them at the very first instance in the morning. And therefore we put a window above the vanity counter instead of mirrors, because that's what you see. You look out of your window when you're brushing your teeth. But at the same time, as I keep saying, we're trying to always find a balance between the modern lifestyle and, this indoor-outdoor living. And hence, in this case, we designed these two shutters, which actually have mirrors on them. And, one can actually close these shutters, and then you have mirrors above your sinks. So they can work as, regular mirrors in case you need to put on makeup or whatever. And then, they can be opened up to expose the view in the window. Again, small strategically placed windows that frame views. And then we play a lot with sizes and dimensions and heights of windows instead of trying to keep all of them the same. We love playing with window sizes. We think that it adds a lot of interest to our design. Okay, now talking about materials and finishes. This is something we've done from day one when it comes to indoor-outdoor spaces. Is we basically use the same flooring material for the indoor and the outdoor spaces. So if, for example, in this photograph, I think it's quite difficult to tell which part of the space is indoor and which is outdoor. And the reason is because it's the same finish that sort of pervades through the home. This is the outside of that space. So, it can be highly detailed, but at the same time, the flooring is the same. And hence the indoor space is able to flow out into the outdoor space fairly seamlessly. We may use different textures of the stone, again, because we are really conscious about, the feeling that you get when you're barefoot. We almost imagine, and we've seen that, in houses like this and spaces like this, you want to shed some of these things like slippers outside the house before you come in. And so, we love the feeling. So indoor, we may do a mirror finish flooring, so it feels really smooth and lovely. But then when you step out, it may be slightly coarse to give you that slight difference of, the feeling under your feet. We're also very conscious of how the building transitions into the landscape. So we don't want, so first, as you saw in the very first principle that we talked about, which is the site planning, our buildings themselves are carefully kind of inserted within the landscape. But then once they are sitting on the landscape, we, once again, even at eye level, we don't want the buildings to feel like they're just these blocks of, construction that we've plopped on the site. So we want the transition between the solid mass of the building and the soft landscape to be very gentle. And hence we work a lot on these transitions. And here you can see that, we've basically created these steps in laterite. which help transition between the indoor-outdoor flooring and the lawn outside. Eventually, the gaps, the mortar joints between the laterite may also get filled in with weeds or with grass, enhancing this, this kind of idea of the two built mass and the landscape kind of being very, very much integrated. Another example of how we, try to soften the edge between the building and the garden. So this is a veranda, and this is actually a design idea that I borrowed from Japanese gardens, where we've got the same flooring material, we've got slabs of the same flooring material as the veranda, kind of helping us transition into the garden. Outdoor spaces. So this is an outdoor space, and here, once again, we've actually used the same stone as the indoor, but this is a completely different finish, and the way it's laid out is totally different. And the reason why this is important is because I want to say that we try to design all of our outdoor spaces to be permeable paving. So we try to not have a lot of concrete in our outdoors, and create paving that is highly permeable so that rainwater can, percolate back into the groundwater. And we also reduce the additional stormwater runoff that our building will create. Now, these are all problems that we're facing in cities in terms of receding underground water, as well as, flooding of low-lying areas. And these problems have started to crop up even in a beautiful place like Goa. So we definitely feel that it is really our responsibility to, because we've seen the horrors of what overdevelopment can do in cities. We must, as architects and builders and just thought professionals in this space with the opportunity to build in beautiful locations, we must have that sense of responsibility of not, aggravating any of these problems by our building interventions. Indoors, we try to keep the finishes limited to mainly one or two finishes. Again, we really need to, in our design, we really try to reduce clutter. We want things to be very simple so that the attention is really on what is important, which is, the outdoors, the views, the things that you can grow in your garden, the breeze that can flow through the space, the daylight, all of those things, rather than a blast of accessories or bright, like too many things happening. Another bathroom where I'm just showing you because we do have different materials, but we've tried to keep them in the same color family. Once again, with similar intents of reducing clutter. Details. This here I again will talk to you about our attempts to show restraint in our design. So I think as designers, we love beautiful things and we get excited about a lot of things, but it is always our intent to simplify rather than add to things. So the idea is to simplify, let a lot of details kind of disappear so that once again, we have very few things which are distracting in spaces and hence the focus is on what is important. So in this photograph, this I love is kind of the railing design that we've designed for the staircase, which is basically built into the wall. It's the same finish as the wall, and it almost completely disappears. And for me, railings are a really important design aspect because they tend to be, or they can be very sort of complex and they can really clutter a space. So we really work on that a lot. You can see on the right side, these are inbuilt lights. So once again, we are even removing the need for any light fittings on the wall. So, just really trying to attain a level of simplicity, that is hard to get, but is our constant attempt. In this bedroom, we did inbuilt beds in IPS, but we also did fixed bedside lights. Once again, reducing the need for having any lamps, no need for, adding any unnecessary accessories. And another beautiful thing that we did here was that we hid the light points away because I feel that the light points on either sides of the bed could be a real eyesore. So we kind of hid them away on the side of the bed, which you can see here. In this photograph, there are two staircases, and what I want to show you is how we've transitioned between the staircase and the flooring. So in both these cases, we designed this wraparound lower step, which is the same material as the flooring, and hence, once again, softens the edge between two different elements in the space. They're not so jarring to the eye and makes them more seamless. We do a lot of built-in seats, and you can just see the level of simplicity that we've tried to achieve here. Verandas, constantly designing verandas. In this one, we put in this plaster band, a very simple little element, not decorative, but it breaks down the space to a more human scale. And we also added a decorative, but still very minimal antique column. And this last photograph is just to show you, again, our attempt at restraint, because instead of making the entire bathroom in this yellow IPS, we almost design each and every wall so that each and every wall in itself is decorative and, sort of beautiful. So there is very little need for any additional embellishment in these spaces. And finally, we come to landscape. So we've tried to show you in our design principles, starting from site planning, then floor planning, and then we've gone through all the details. And now we're just coming back to the landscape design, which obviously is very critical to our design for indoor-outdoor spaces. So when it comes to our landscape, we try to design something that looks fairly wild. We don't like manicured gardens or a lot of manicured lawns. We want to design a landscape which feels like, it's sort of come up on its own. So we like to mix a lot of different plant species. We want to get different textures, different leaf forms, different colors into the garden. And the pathways also, we tend to design them to feel there are various levels of pathways that we do, of course, but then a lot of the garden pathways are designed to be very kind of cobblestoney, in a way, so not symmetrical. They're not laid in with perfection. And then we have the ground cover kind of grow through them, within them, so everything just kind of becomes one surface. We don't like to do a lot of planters and edging of our plants. And even if we do a planter for maintenance sake, we usually end up planting outside it too, so that the planter is completely hidden. And here too, you can see that, you can see how we've have various different plant types, with different colors and different textures, which even though it's on the edge of a lawn, it still feels like it's very natural. It shouldn't feel, in our heads, it shouldn't feel manicured and kind of curated so much. Okay, I will end here, and I'm not sure how much time we have. So Sneha, can you give me a time check?
Sure, you can. We can play the video, Anjali. Go ahead.
Okay, so before the video, actually, I'm going to talk about what we've done here. And, guys, I just want to say that you have not, other than the beginning of the talk, you've not really heard me talk about sustainability, okay? And I have not made it into one of our design principles because and the reason for that is that sustainability for us is not a design principle. It is not just a word or a principle that we put in at the very end. It is something that pervades our entire design process. So from day one, when we're talking about site planning, when we're talking about mapping the trees and the assets of the site, and then retaining most of those until the very end of, again, landscape design, choosing materials, all of that, like we are thinking about sustainability at every step, and it is integrated into every decision that we're making. Here, I'm going to talk to you about this kind of water system that we created, because we do take rainwater harvesting very seriously. And as you saw in one of the previous photographs, I talked about how the outdoor paving is meant to be permeable so that most of the water is percolated back into the underground. We also collect the roof rainwater for all the buildings that we build, and they are either put back into the ground or into the well, or basically into, or not very often, but sometimes into a tank for reuse. This is a project which is the House of Three Pavilions, where we took the rainwater harvesting, kind of pushed the limit a little bit further. So let me tell you what we did here. We were building on a very large site, so it was about 1.5 acres. And the site had lots of existing trees. So that layer there is all the existing trees. And when we first went to the site, we actually saw that there was a natural depression at the center of the site. So that, and what we also observed was that there was a wetland that was being created there after the monsoon. Which attracted a lot of water birds, which attracted dragonflies, and there was a whole ecosystem around it. And then for this project, as you can see, we carefully first inserted our pavilions within the existing trees, so we don't have to cut anything. But then we took this pond, which we wanted to retain that natural, beautiful ecosystem that was on the site before we came on the site. And so we basically took that pond, and hang on. Yeah. So that was how the depression was when we saw it before we started construction. And then we basically planned for it to be a natural pond, which fills with water when it's a seasonal pond. So it fills with water when there is rains. And as the rains recede, it dries up. So as you can see in the third photograph on the bottom left is the dry season, where the water has mostly receded. And then on the right, bottom right, is the photograph where we're sort of in the middle of the monsoons, and the greenery has taken over, but there is a lot more water in the pond. And the water level will keep going high and low as per the rains. All of the rainwater from the collected rainwater from the roofs is put into this pond. It becomes the central landscape feature for our land. I'm going to go back to our previous image. So it becomes the central landscape feature for our 3 pavilions that we've designed. And then this pond further is connected with the system of bioswales that we designed, because our land is so large that we basically created the system of natural bioswales, which expand the surface area for the water percolation on the land. And that's the pond with the 2 pavilions, as you can see. And those are the bioswales that we've designed. So once again, they become an integral element of the landscape design. These bioswales were done with retaining walls as well as gabion walls, depending on the depth. And the idea is really that they will be completely taken over by greenery, and they will disappear. So they will not be these incisions into the site, but really become a part of the site. This is a bioswale from inside, but just to show you how the greenery has already started to take over. And I'm going to leave you guys with this video, which kind of explains the system a little bit more, talks about the benefits, And we can talk about it a lot more during Q&A if you have any. But yeah, let me play this first. So this is the bioswale part that I was telling you about. And yes, we didn't use any cement in the construction, so no toxic, chemical leaching into the back into the underground. And these are the benefits. It prevents flooding of low-lying areas. There's no additional load on the rural infrastructure. The topsoil remains moist, so we need less water for irrigation. And of course, we've restored this beautiful wetland biodiversity that we found on the site. So guys, I will leave you here and I'm opening it up for questions.
Thanks so much, Anjali. What a beautifully put together presentation. I was making so many notes as you were speaking, and some of them really resonated, and I'm sure with most of you here, with all of you here. I'm actually going to ask a few audience questions because they since the projects that we just saw are still fresh in our memory. So Forum is asking, what is the flooring that you've used in some of your projects? Is it all Kota, or have you used different kinds of material?
Yeah, we tend to use a lot of Kota.
Yeah.
We like it a lot. We like it because of the color, because it's like a greenish color, which we think that it just merges with the landscape really well. We
And
do
it works with
use.
Goa's humid weather also, right?
I mean, it's a good stone. It's a good stone to use. It's a local, at least, okay, not local to Goa, but it's a local Indian stone. With local Goan stones, we've used, not Goan, but around Goa, Karnataka, we've used Kadapa, we've used Tandoor. We continue to use them, but, we feel that it's a little harder for us to get the right finish. We've used a lot of Jaisalmer as well. And of course, we use a lot of IPS.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, because Ajit is asking, what is the finish that you use in the bathroom seating? Is that also IBS?
I don't know which seating he's talking about, but
Bathroom seating, he says.
bathroom. I don't know if I showed a photograph of a bathroom seat, but maybe IPS. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Great. So I think I'm going to just, before we actually get into, more audience questions, by the way, please feel free to ask your questions, to Anjali. Anjali, you're getting a lot of comments too in the chat that, people have really enjoyed your session. I want to actually ask everyone, I'm just going to throw up a quick audience poll. The poll basically asks everyone here about the challenges that they face. Anjali so beautifully talked about her process, which seems so simple. And it's also so organized, when it comes to building transition spaces, like what she just talked about. So I wanted to ask everyone, and Rudra, if you can help us put up the first audience poll, please. What are the challenges that you face when it comes to incorporating the natural environment into build design, or even when you're designing and when you're thinking about site responsive architecture? Is it planning within the natural environment without destroying the majority of it? Like Anjali also talked about, not having to, kind of have to choose which trees to, do away with, unfortunately, or which trees to transplant. Designing spaces that could withstand any form or any kind of weather, because as we all know, India's climate keeps, surprising us. Creating flexible, seamless indoor-outdoor spaces, or anything else that any other challenges that you face, please feel free to share in the chat. So please go ahead and put in your answer, or if you have any other challenges that you face, we'd love to know. And we can probably have Anjali also address them when she talks about her design process in detail. Once you're done, Rudra, whenever you're ready, you can reveal the poll results as well. Oh, very interesting. Yeah. So obviously, yes, the obvious challenge for a lot of us here is planning within the natural environment. How do you do that without having to compromise? Do you face that a lot too, Anjali, when
I mean, it's the most important thing, Sneha.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing. So, we know that the building industry today globally is responsible for immense use of new resources, right? And then we use a lot of cement, which produces a lot of carbon dioxide. So we are responsible as a building industry for a lot of emissions and global warming, right? And then also pollution. So it is really in today's times, it's really our responsibility to think about that first. So every time we build something new, every time we have any intervention, it is really our job to think about how can we minimize impact? How can we minimize impact?
Yeah, absolutely. And Anup also shares an interesting point, like how do you get clients on the same page? But I think if you, I'm not an architect or designer, but if you are given a space where you are surrounded by greenery, and like you mentioned with one project, how you there was this one client who had a special connection, had an emotional connection with this one tree. But do you ever find the struggle? Have you ever come across situations where the client and you are not on the same page when it comes to planning a certain space or even kind of foregoing certain aspects of a space?
So I feel that we are very lucky. So we attract clients who have a very similar thought process as us. So we are very lucky in that sense, But of course, things happen, things happen. For example, in one of our projects, we had this beautiful neem tree. It's an urban site. We had this beautiful neem tree, and we almost designed, and it's an urban site, so we didn't have a lot of trees. This beautiful neem tree was there, and we designed our living room like a stack of living rooms and balcony such that they overlook this neem tree. And then the contractor pretty much in like week one of the project knocked down that neem tree, right? So things happen. The point is that you can bring the clients on board as long as you explain that what you're doing is a very natural part of your process, right? So it shouldn't feel like it's this additional thing that you're doing, or it's going to cost so much more or whatever. If you just make it a part of your process, then everyone is, I think, on board.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of architects and designers, I'm seeing a lot of questions also coming in about, achieving this kind of transition space, between the indoors and outdoors, especially in either small plot sizes. I think there was someone who had mentioned, Nitisha's, Megha's question was basically, how do we have the outdoor connection or feel into a small plot size home and for apartment flats? And we have a lot more people asking, do you see the feasibility? Giri Prasad asks, is it feasible to build high-rise buildings like apartments, say, with no cement or with concrete? So yes, so there's definitely an interest, or there's definitely a concern here about achieving this kind of course, with of course the indoor and outdoor, building that relationship between indoor, outdoors, in an urban space, and also the use of such materials, the no cement. So what are your thoughts here?
So the point is that it's not just, I think what I want to say, first of all, is that when we, at least let's not talk about indoor, outdoor in a very aesthetic manner alone, right? So let's not talk about it with just connection to greenery, right? Let's talk about it as a holistic, sustainable approach to construction, to design and construction. And when you're talking about this to be a holistic approach, if you are on a very tight urban site and you don't have trees, you don't have trees, right? But there are 10,000 other things that you can do, right? You want to build a G+5 building, which, is the most economical using concrete, then build it using concrete. But then again, there are so many other things that, one can do. So let's talk about rainwater harvesting. Let's talk about creating outdoor paving that's permeable. Let's talk about using water fittings, like the bathroom and kitchen fittings that are water efficient. Let's talk about changing all the lights to LEDs. So there are, and also practices. So let's also incorporate practices like teach your kids to turn off the light, right? Teach your kids wastewater when they're brushing their teeth, reuse the RO water in your kitchen. I mean, it doesn't, like, there are so many things that we can all do together when it comes to either being an architect or as a client or as a homeowner or as an individual, when it comes to having a holistic, sustainable practice.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, once you and I really like the point that you said about how you don't approach this as, adding it on. Sustainability is not an add-on for you; it is integral. You've pervaded it. It's part of your design process. How do you ensure that? And I was also reading about your work, and you talk about how you try to establish this balance. Between sorry, I'm trying to refer to my notes, and you said it so beautifully, because I don't want to kind of spoil the flow of that sentence. Just give me 1 second. It
Yeah,
said
sure.
you've talked about yeah, you're tying the rustic vernacular with contemporary style in perfect balance, and that is, I feel that must be such a challenge to do, and a challenge to be consistent about it too, right? Because at one end you are trying to honor that space, you are also trying to source the right kind of materials for that space, and you're also trying to give it this kind of modernness to it, and also modern while also trying to achieve that long-term durability. So
Yeah.
yeah, so how do you do that? How do you try to achieve that balance without having to, you know, again the question of compromise comes here, irrespective of it being if you're given that lush green space in Goa, as opposed to say a more dense concrete jungle in a city. So how do you achieve that balance irrespective?
I mean, it's of course a work in progress, right? And I think as all architects, we all hope to kind of constantly keep learning and keep improving and keep just bettering our work. But see, the reason why we do rustic, right? So let me tell you why. It's because of the place that we build in. So if I'm building in Chennai, which we are building on an urban site in Chennai, um, my need to be rustic is slightly reduced. But when I'm building in Goa, which has, a very significant architectural language, right? An existing architectural language, which is whatever, Indo-Portuguese. I think that again, just to be to be a part of the cultural context there, and to make sure that our buildings again don't stand out like landmarks, but they just get integrated into the village landscape. We have to honor that, right? So we have to somehow learn from it, somehow incorporate it. And hence we try to do a lot of these big terracotta tile roofs. So at least or from the road, from the streets, when you see our buildings, they should just look like they're part of the village landscape and not stick out like a concrete, like a box.
That's what
So
I wrote to in my notes, that when I saw when I saw the projects that we built in Goa, and I saw the exteriors, that they reminded me so much of my family's ancestral homes that I've seen in Mangalore, which were usually, they're all like firstly like ground level, and all of them in Mangalore tiles, and with those very very lovely pillars. There's so much of that design, that functional and robust design, so it was so heartwarming to see it, and I was telling Mrinalini also in the chat that this is what I would like my home to be, and I've always kind of
oh,
looked up to this kind of design, which again, not just resonates in terms of design, but it resonates in terms of purpose. Like I want
thank you.
to kind of you see these kind of homes want to transcend not just to your generation but for generations to come. Yeah.
Absolutely. So in fact, that's so true because the homes that we build, we don't want them to be, just kind of for a certain time period. We want them to, really sort of last generations. And so as you can, as you're explaining, like these homes reminded you of old traditional Mangalorean homes, but at
Yeah.
the same time, the way we, have sort of the clean lines, like we still are not trying to copy what is into Portuguese and just paste it onto our building. So we're not just doing, plaster bands everywhere and colors, and we're not copying them. We're trying to give them a contemporary form, and we're trying to be very minimal when we're doing it and not going overboard with decoration and with accessories or material. So it is a fine line that we walk, but we love it. Like, I think it comes naturally to us. It is our design aesthetic. So it's I think neither minimalism nor maximalism, but somewhere in between. And yeah, I think that's what I know and that's what I do. And also, one more thing about Chennai House, even though it's urban, like we are still, it's going to have kind of this facade system where actually the south and the west facades are going to be green facades.
Yeah.
And then the front facade will be, will have some kind of screening. And, the green facade is really responding to the hot temperatures of Chennai. But it is very rustic at the same time, right? And it's very indoor-outdoor. So in fact, someone saw the design that we've done for that house, and they immediately said that it reminded them of Baba's Kandalama Hotel in Sri Lanka. So, again, very rustic, very indoor-outdoor, but very urban. And it's responding to the climate, so it's kind of doing a lot of things.
Speaking of your design aesthetic, very unique design, very unique but still familiar design aesthetic. I remember seeing, the series of stories that you did on your Instagram. By the way, your Instagram is lovely. If you follow Anjali's Instagram, there's so much that you can learn from it, especially the young architects and designers out there. For me, as many of you may or may not know, I'm not a trained designer or architect. I'm someone who's an enthusiast. But that was the first time I learned about rammed earth. And I realized how much you love the technique, the process, and the material of rammed earth. So can you, what is it about it that draws you to that process? And do you think there should be more of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We are still to start construction on the house that we're doing in rammed earth, which should happen very soon, hopefully in a couple of months. Yeah. So we'll have a lot of exciting, kind of lessons that we'll be learning. I first was exposed to rammed earth and earth blocks when I did my internship in Oroville. So I worked with the Earth Institute in Oroville, and we actually built these with our own hands. And we lived in those earth block homes too, so you just suddenly realize how the temperature drops the moment you're inside, the feel of the space and the smell of the place. It's like there's whatever, we add 5 to 10% cement in to stabilize the rammed earth, but then, it's mainly a natural material. So there is no toxic material really there. And then these buildings are breathable. So that is the biggest thing. They will absorb the moisture, then they release the moisture. So imagine living, like one of my friends, he's built a rammed earth house for himself in Goa, and he's built it in a circular form. And, it's almost like a womb. He describes it like that, so it's cool. It's like you're contained, and you're contained within earth in a way. So it smells great and all of those things. So I'm hoping, so this is our first project in Goa in rammed earth, and we're quite hesitant about using rammed earth because of the rainfall, the kind of crazy rainfall that we have. But we've been very fortunate to get clients who only wanted to build in mud. So we've actually really expanded our knowledge base on it, and we've done a lot of experimentation, and we feel fairly confident about doing this.
We're looking forward. Maybe I'm hoping that this community here will be the first to kind of get to witness it, and hopefully whenever it's ready, we'd love to see it for sure. We'd love to explore it for sure.
You got it.
I wanted to talk to you more about your practice, because your practice is quite unique, because you're not just an architect, you're not just into design, but you also develop real estate. Was that a conscious decision from the start? I know that you have, of course, educated. You do have a master's of real estate development too. But what decisions led you to be this, kind of multi-purpose firm in all its glory? Yeah.
So we actually, interestingly, Sneha, we actually started out as a development firm and not as a design firm. And the reason why was because, when I was starting Grounded in 2010 and I was moving from New York, the reason was because I really thought that architects in India are very knowledgeable. We have a lot of architectural talent in India, right? We have people talking the right talk and even doing the right things, right? But then we still continue to see commercially, we continue to see just the same concrete crap just going up. So I felt that there was a real gap between this amazing architectural thought leadership that we have and the actual implementation, because most or majority of the construction in our country and elsewhere is done commercially by builders, right? So our attempt with starting a development practice was to somehow bridge this gap, right? To bridge the gap between this sort of knowledge base and practice. We are very small, so we're not like builders or anything like that. Like we do like 1 or 2 projects in like a couple of years. We have a lot of control, so we are able to, at least initially. And I think a lot of young architects, and the reason why they ask the question about how do you bring the clients on board is because, they're constantly kind of trying to battle this decision making with clients. Because they were our own projects at the beginning, we had a lot of control, and therefore we could really implement what we wanted to implement. We didn't have to answer to anyone, right? And we knew that we were doing the right thing when it comes to sustainability. And so we could just go ahead and do it. And now that we've been able to show a few, do a few projects, now we have this, so many examples, like they basically become our talking points. So it's made the architectural practice much easier, I think, to have those kind of projects as our starting projects. And even with architecture, though, we want to stay small, so we do very few architecture projects as well.
Right. And is there a reason why, or correct me if I'm wrong, are you developing currently only in Goa? And is the reason why, or just Goa at the moment?
We have always only done development in Goa. We've done architectural projects elsewhere, and we are doing more of them elsewhere as well. But development work we only do in Goa because, we've been doing it. I mean, we've done very few projects, like 5 projects, but we've done it for 10 years. We've developed the knowledge from scratch, right? So I don't come from a developer family. So we've really developed knowledge from scratch. So now we just want to capitalize on that and continue to build in Goa. And we have limited bandwidth to expand beyond the region.
All right. But maybe in the future to other parts of the country.
I have 2 children as well.
That allows you to experiment with Kota, Kadapa, rammed earth, and
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, in fact, rammed earth, it would be very interesting to do a development project with rammed earth. I don't know if the market is ready for it. I mean, there are groups in Bangalore who built with mud blocks, and they've done it successfully. So that would be exciting. But I realized after I went to study development, and I started a development practice, and I've been doing it for 12 years. But I've realized that business is not my forte. I'm a bad businesswoman. I'm way more emotional than logical. So I think we have to keep it scaled to a size that's manageable.
I understand. Yeah, but I think if you are someone who is so passionate about and so transparent about the way you build your houses, I think the emotion and the business can achieve a certain kind of balance also in a way, and then maybe in that case, scale might not be your objective, right? It's about getting that purpose out there. Well,
it always is. For us, scale has never been a target. It's always been quality, and also always trying to improve, trying to push the boundaries, trying to get better at what we're doing. That's our goal.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a few. We have a lot of questions coming for you, Anjali, by the way. A lot of people have asked about materials and about process. So we have Royal Raj say that he really likes the beautiful spaces and the framed views. Is there any room height, floor to ceiling, and width parameter scale that you consider while designing these beautifully connected spaces, especially the transitional spaces? Is there a standard that you follow, or it depends given the project?
So actually, if you look at traditional buildings, you will see the scale, the proportion. So I'm not going to go into measurements and stuff right now, but I
Yeah,
would
of
say
course.
since you're an architect, sorry, the person who asked the question,
Yeah.
What's his name?
Royal Raj.
Okay, so Raj, since you're an architect, go study the buildings, draw them out. You'll see the dimensions, you'll see the proportions. That's what we've done. And also, once you walk into the spaces, just to your eye, if it is trained well enough, you should be able to tell whether the proportions are correct or not.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Leah Elizabeth asks, while blurring the boundaries between indoor and outdoor spaces, how do we control pests, mosquitoes, and other such concerns? I think you kind of addressed it a little bit, when you're talking about the big openings, the importance of having mosquito screens. But is there
Absolutely.
any other way, any other things that you address while you build these both large and small openings? Yeah.
I mean, so this is something that I did bring up, but you're constantly like, it's very easy to design open spaces. It's very easy to design big openings, lots of glass. It's kind of very easy to do that, but at the same time, you always have to think about, these factors of security. You have to think about critters and mosquitoes and all of those things. You have to think about privacy, and you have to think about maintenance, right? So, for example, wooden screen doors are super popular on Instagram and Pinterest, and everyone loves
The
wood screen
safety is a
doors. But
concern.
then,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not just the safety, right? Like if you end up putting glass panels, then how do you clean those glass panels, right? So if you end up having very high windows, then what happens when there are rain stains on it, right? So I think that it's like you have to constantly think about all of these things, but at the same time you have to, your intent is to design a space that is tremendous, that has that wow quality, but then at the same time you can't not think about all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many other questions, but unfortunately, we are a little over time. But yes, thank you so much, Anjali. You've been wonderful. Lot
Thank
of
you.
learnings, a lot of insight into your process, which is I would say so consistent, and it's so heartwarming to see these kind of projects come together so beautifully, especially in a place like Goa that is thriving for spaces like these. That's the ideal ground for spaces like
Exactly.
these, pun intended. But yes, thank you so much, Anjali, for your time. We're hoping to see more from you, and we definitely hope to see you again in our platform. Thank you, everyone who's joined us today. I think there is a quick feedback form for all of you to fill. In case you would like us to see, similar experts like Anjali shared, please feel free to share your suggestions with us. We'll be doing more of these, of course, next month. Please follow Godrej Locks for updates on this. And of course, if you are a part of the GVCC, you will definitely get updates coming to your inbox. So thank you, everyone. Please do fill out the feedback form because we are listening. We are paying attention to your suggestions and your feedback, Nonani and I both. We're very grateful for all of you to spend your working day, working evening with us. And yes, we hope to see you very soon next month. Yeah, and thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend. Have a good week. Thank you, Anjali, again. Thanks, Pranalini.
Thank you.
And we hope to see everyone again very soon. Details about GVCC have been shared on the chat too, if you'd like to know more about how you can be a part of this and how you can be a part of this community to get more updates. Yes, that's it, everyone, from us. Thank you, and we hope to see you very soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Neha. Thanks, Pranalini. Good
Thanks,
night.
Anjali. Thank you.
Bye.